Russian leaves in bead weaving are so cool. They're also a little bit hard to find really good instructions for. When I first taught myself how to make Russian leaves, now granted this was like 7, 8 years ago, but the first time I went to go do it, I had to go to about 5 different sources to really figure out what I was doing. Because what you're doing is you're doing diagonal peyote. One's going one way, one's going the other way, and then you bring the two ends together at the top, and that's what turns it into the leaf shape. So I had to learn how to do the diagonal peyote. There's a funky turn on the top, there's a funky turn on the bottom, so you got to remember, you know, back and forth. And then there's a trick for the center so that you can make the two sides equal in sizing. And so I'm going to cover all that in today's video. So let's take a look at what I'm actually talking about. This little leaf here is not actually completed, it's close to completed, but what's going to happen when I'm done is these two ends up here are going to come together, and this is what a Russian leaf looks like. This is the basic Russian leaf, and there are a bunch of variations that you can do, and we will be covering those in other videos. But what we're doing today is just the basic Russian leaf. So this is what it looks like. I've used delicas here for the main body of the leaf, and then I've used seed beads, which are softer and have a more rounded edge, for just the tips here, for a little edge, a nice edge detail. There's no reason why you can't do the entire interior with size 11 seed beads. It's just that the delicas stack a little bit more nicely, and so especially as a beginner, you're going to find it a little bit easier if you use the delicas. Okay, so here's how we're going to start out. First thing I'm going to do is I'm adding a stopper bead, and it's best with a stopper bead if you pick a bead that's completely unrelated to your project, because that way you are less likely to accidentally bead it into your project. All right, so there we go. And the way I'm going to start out is by picking up 1 seed bead and 9 delicas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Another seed bead, and another delica. So that's what it looks like. Then I'm going to bring these down to my stopper bead. I'm going to go back towards my tail. I'm skipping the first 3 beads. So I'm skipping the delica, a seed bead, and a delica. And because this delica is going to sit next to this delica when I turn around, and I'm passing through that 4th bead. Oops. And I'm going to pull it completely out of frame. There we go. And this is what happens when you pull it tight, is you get this little T intersection thing. So these two are sitting next to each other. You've got the seed bead down at the bottom, and your thread is coming out of the next delica up above. So if you don't see this, then pull it and go back and try it again. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to peyote up the rest of this length of beads here. And if you need a primer on peyote stitch, I have already done a video for that, and I will pop a link up on the screen to that basic peyote video if you need it. But what we're going to do here is I'll pick up a delica, skipping one and passing through the next one. Picking up a delica, skipping one, passing through the next one. Same thing here. Oops. Flipping it around on me, which is pretty normal. Okay, on this last one, I want to point out that what I've got left here is a delica and a seed bead. And I want to add this, and I want to do a peyote stitch, so it needs to sit next to the delica. We're going to go ahead and go through that seed bead as the other bead. Even though it's a different kind of bead, we don't care. And there we go. Now we've got a nice little peyote strip here. And we've got the seed bead on the top and the seed bead on the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn around, and I'm going to come and peyote back down again with all delicas. And so I picked up a delica. I'm passing through the first sticky outie, and it's going to sit next to that seed bead. Just like so. On the bottom edge here, we're going to stop 1 bead short, because the way that we're going to create this diagonal peyote is you have to do a decrease on the bottom edge and an increase on the top edge. So for our decrease on the bottom edge here I am. If I added one more bead, I would go through that last sticky outie, but I don't want to do that. I want to stop before I go to that last sticky outie. So instead, what I'm going to do on this bottom edge to turn back upward, I'm going to pick up a seed bead and then a delica. And now I'm going to turn around and start going back up again and pass through the first sticky outie. So here's what happens when you pick up that seed, when you're picking up the 2 beads, that seed bead just kind of sits there as a little accent. And it's just going to create this nice little pretty edging along the way. This is not the only way to do the bottom edge, but this is, one of them. So then we will peyote all the way back up to the top again. So the bottom edge turn, funky turn, is pretty easy. It's just that you're picking up 2 beads instead of a single. Now the top edge funky turns, now that we're here, we want to increase this by 1 segment. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a delica, a seed bead, and a delica. We're going to bring it down so that it's sitting next to the beads. And then we're going to turn around and start going downward again. But see, even though these 3 beads that we just picked up aren't attached to the peyote strip by anything other than 1 little piece of thread here, we are going to just go through that first delica that you picked up in that set of 3. So it's a little bit weird because it doesn't seem like it's attached, so right now the only thing that's holding all of this together is this thread here, but that's normal. The other thing that's normal is that this wants to kind of twist on you. What we're ultimately going to want it to do is sit so that the seed bead sits on this inside edge, but if it twists around on you right now, don't worry about it, because when we come back and peyote up again, we can force it to do what we want. So that's the increase, and now we're just going to peyote down again with our delicas. So pick up 1, go through the next sticky outie. There we go. Now did you see how more solid that whole thing sits now? Just that 1 stitch made all the difference. I'm going to come back down with my delicas. I'm stopping 1 short. So here, if I'd gone through the next sticky outie, that would be all the way down, but I'm going to stop 1 short. I'm picking up a seed bead and a delica to turn around, and now I'm going back up again. And I want to show you that top edge funky turn again. I am doing this right now so that I'm not flipping my work back and forth, but actually when I do this at home and I'm not trying to demonstrate for you guys, I do flip it around on me so I can get a better angle on it. And let me show you what I mean by that. I find it a little bit easier if I flip it so on this edge to go back up. So here I'm at the other funky turn. I'm picking up a delica, a seed bead, and a delica, bringing it down to my thread, or bringing it down to the beads, I mean, and then passing back through the first delica that I just picked up. Don't worry if this piece ends up way up here, way up on your thread when you go back through there. Don't worry about it, because you can move it back down. What you do to move it back down is you're just going to hold on to that seed bead and then scooch this down to the strip. And now once it's down to the strip, now you can hold on to that with your finger and tighten everything back down again. There we go. So now it's back the way I want it. And then here you can see where the seed bead is wanting to sit. Let's see here, this is how I was holding it before. The seed bead is trying to sit on the outside edge instead of the inside edge. But like I said, when we come back up again, all I have to do is flip it and then pass through that bead when I come back up to do my peyote, and that will force it to sit on this inside edge. So you're going to want to keep doing that. Do your increase funky turn with the 3 beads on the top edge and your decrease with the 2 beads on the bottom edge. And you want to keep doing that until you're going to have 9 beads of these accent beads here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the bottom edge. And then here 1, we do want to count that first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the top edge. And then once you finish that, come on back and I will show you what we're going to do next. After you've got your strip going, there's one little accent that you can add on the edge, and then I'm going to show you how to weave back down to the center and start your second side. So let's take a look at the beads. Here I have actually stopped one bead shy of this being finished. So on this bottom edge I've got 9, on the top edge I've only got 8 here. So I'm going to show you here with me finishing this top edge. There's my Delica seed bead Delica. I'm going to pass back through the Delica. Okay, then what I like to do here is, because this is not really very well attached, like I said before, we've only got the one pass of thread there that's attaching this to the rest. What I like to do is actually peyote all the way down, and this time I go all the way down with my Delicas. So I'm going to stitch that in here. Oops, and here. And then if you wanted to, after this stitch, you could stop here. This is going to be the top edge of your leaf, but to me visually it looks like there's a little divot right there. So I actually like to go ahead and fill in that very last piece with a Delica. There we go. And so now it just gives it a stronger edge right there. So that's the only time on the bottom that you will go all the way to the bottom. To start our second side of this V, what we need to do is weave down so that we're coming out of this center seed bead, the same one that our tail thread is coming out of. So there's no exact path for doing this. You just want to make sure that you're going into adjoining beads so that your thread will sit along those intersections between them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually go up first so that I can get towards the center of this strip, and now I will work my way down. And let's see here, I'm coming out of this bead, so I'm going to come on down this little column. I usually can go 2 or 3 beads at a time when I'm moving this. There we go. I'm using particularly large Delicas today so that you can see. Usually it's a little more challenging to get through these holes if you're using the normal size 11 Delicas. I'm using size 10s today. So we're making an extra large leaf. Okay, so now you can see where I've kind of come down below it. Now I can come across over here and work my way up. So I'm going to come up here, up one more on the diagonal. And then now I can finally pop through that seed bead in the center. There we go. So here's the thing that I have screwed up more times than I care to admit. So I'm warning you guys about this trick to making sure that the 2 sides of your V are the same size. What we have been doing every single time is we've been doing an increase on this top edge when we get here. But here's the thing, to make this side, the new side, match the old side, you're actually going to have to do 1 row of peyote down without the increase on this top edge. And I always forget this, and I have like a stupid amount of these leaves at home. What happens is you end up losing 1 row of this V shape. So this ends up being just a little bit skinnier than this side. Now, of course, leaves aren't perfect, so I just went and ran with it, but you know, about the 7th time you've done that, you kind of feel stupid. So here's my suggestion to you is just remember that every time that you're coming out of that center, your first time coming down is just going to be regular stitches, regular peyote stitches. So here we go. So now I've got that Delica on either side of that center seed bead. And we're working our way to the bottom edge. Again, I'm going to stop 1 bead shy of the end, so this will be my last one. And then I'll pick up the seed bead and the Delica to turn around and come back the opposite way again. And if I flip it so that I'm actually going up, There's my bottom edge, and it matches. So you're going to keep now doing the same thing that you did on this side over here. Now the next time we come up to this top edge, you will do that funky turn with picking up the delica, seed bead delica. So again, you're going to want to continue this until you have something that looks like this, and you're going to have the 9 beads along the top edge, 9 beads along the bottom edge. You do count this center bead on both sides. So it's 9 starting here up, and it's 9 starting here up. So go ahead and get that accomplished. I'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to finish off this leaf. Now you've got this pretty little diagonal V shape going on, but now what do you do with it? Let me show you. Here I've gone ahead and I finished off this edge by peyoting down all the way on this side so that the two sides are matching. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that thread and I'm going to weave my way up so that it's coming out that tip delica up there. So again, there's no special thread path for doing this, just however your beads, however you want to work your way through the beads. And there we go. You just want to make sure that you do not have your thread showing as you do this. So I'm just going to work my way up on this outside edge. Watch for those hooked threads too, because now you've got all these little angles for your thread to hook on. Okay, almost there. And there we go. Okay. This is like the world's easiest thing. I'm picking up, now I'm coming out of that tip, I'm going to pick up one more delica, and I'm going to pass down through the delica on the other side. And I'm actually going to go down through 3 because these 3 on a diagonal, well, okay, my needle wants to go through 4, so fine, I'll go through 4. I'm going to want to turn around again and be able to reinforce this. But see how when you just add that single bead on the tip there, now it pulls so beautifully into that leaf shape. And right now it has a little bit of body to it, like it's sitting up. What's going to happen over time is your fire line will break down a little bit, and so this will get a little bit floppier. And so that's normal, and if you see that over time, don't worry about it. But what I do like to do is at least with one more thread path go across that top edge again. So I went down to a spot where I had the 2 beads side by side so I could turn around again, and now I'm coming back across that top. There we go. Reinforce. And then now I can just weave my way down into this peyote and end off my thread. And I can do the same thing. I've actually already done it with my tail thread down here. With peyote, peyote's perfect stitch to just kind of weave back and forth. I change directions about 3 times in here, and then I can just cut off my thread. So that is the basic Russian leaf. Now there's a million things you can do with this. You could just, attach a ear wire just like this and wear it as an earring. There's some other options are to create some vining in the center here to kind of give it a little more stiffness and more structure. You can make these wings over off to the side here, these V shapes. You can make them skinnier. You can make them shorter. Those are all subjects that I'll be covering over time. And then the other thing that you can do with them is, say you have a pretty bracelet, you can just stitch it down on top of the bracelet. You can stitch a whole bunch of them together and make an incredible necklace. And one of the things that I have done with them is I have a pattern actually on my website. Is called Russian Splendor, and it's a necklace of let's see, it's netting, it's filled netting for the necklace. And then I have literally just hung these leaves on the necklace. And so there's about 6 or so leaves in different sizes that you just hang on the necklace. And of course, because they aren't attached in any way other than hanging on the necklace, you can do as many or as few as you want. It's convertible. You can make the leaves in all sorts of different colors and make it a mix and match kind of necklace. So that's a really kind of cool pattern for you. Russian Splendor. I'll pop up a link for that. I hope you enjoy making Russian leaves, and practice, practice, practice. Have fun. Thanks.